Zach Benson here, today talking about using forms and automations in Airtable. Now, in this example, I'm going to build a new client inquiry survey that could live on your website and be a useful place for potential prospects to send you some information before you have an initial meeting. But you should know that you can use forms both externally and internally as an easy way to get information added to your CRM. Now, with that said, we should also note that Airtable forms and automations differ from some of the competitors in a few key ways. First is that the automations we're going to use today are native to Airtable. We're not going to touch Zapier or any of the other integration tools. We can do it all in-house. The second is the fact that the structure and flow of this form is completely up to us. We're not forced into any sort of an opportunities workflow or any other template. We can build this the way that we actually want to do our prospecting, not the way the provider thinks we should do our prospecting. Now, with that said, let's dive in. This form here is going to populate directly into the people database of the template CRM that I built. We're going to ask this prospect to fill out a couple key pieces of information marked by the asterisk that you'll see in a couple fields. The form won't submit unless they give us their legal name, their marital status, their email, and a couple other pieces of information. The next thing to note is that there are some dynamic fields in this form that we're not going to ask if they're not relevant. You'll see those are marked by an I symbol next to those fields. So in this case, all of the spouse and partner fields are conditional on marital status being set to either married or partnered. If that's set to single, those fields just won't show up, so it's not cluttering up the prospect flow for this person. You'll also see that we can have a couple different formats for the fields. For example, we can have just text fields, we can have these drop-down fields, we can also have radio buttons where they can select things as they apply to them. Or we can have long text fields where they can do formatting, right, add in as much information as they want to give us. So with all of that said, I have a survey partially built out here for Julius Caesar. I'm not going to hit submit on this just yet though, because I want to walk back over to the automation side of this demo to talk about what will happen when Julius does hit submit on this. So back on this side, we'll click over to automations. Now, automations in Airtable work on an if-then framework, where if a certain trigger happens, then various actions will occur. In this case, the trigger is when this new client inquiry survey is submitted. When that happens, a couple different things will run automatically on our behalf. First, we'll create a household record. Now, this is important because the way Airtable works is it's a relational database where we created people records, right? So the contacts, we created Julius, but we don't have a household record for the entire kind of client household. So it's going to create that for us. It won't give it a name because we're not going to run an automation to kind of flip Julius's name around. We'll do that ourselves as a kind of quality control check in the interface that I'll show you towards the end of this demo. We're also going to immediately set the status of this new household to pre-prospect. Now, in this demo, we use pre-prospect as a way to basically say a prospect that hasn't been vetted or reviewed by anyone on the team. After they've been vetted, they will move to prospect and eventually to client potentially. Now, the next thing we want is we want a notification of when this survey is submitted. And we don't want it in Airtable, we want it to go directly into Slack. So we have a Slack account linked into this and a channel for Airtable alerts. And when the survey is submitted, we'll immediately get a message that says new inquiry survey submitted. It's from Julius. And here's a link directly to the interface where we can look at this information in kind of a friendly UI UX. Now, we also have one last piece of dynamic information that may be created by this automation. If those spouse and partner fields were filled out, right, if they're not empty, we also want to create a people record for the spouse. And it will immediately be linked to the household we created before. Right, so a couple steps, all completely no code. We can create an automation that creates the household for this and creates our people records and have the prospect do some of the work to fill out their kind of basic biographical information. So let's go back over to the inquiry survey and quickly give Julius a spouse. We'll give him his third wife here. And with that added, I can now hit submit on the survey. Julius will get a thank you confirmation. That confirmation can be customized, mind you. And we can then go ahead and open the Slack channel, and we see that we get a notification that a new inquiry survey has been submitted. It's from Julius, and here's a link that will take us directly to the interface where we can review the information that he gave us. Now, the first thing to note is that there's a blank household and an unnamed record listed for their linked household. We can just quickly go in, again, as a quality control check and to make sure that we have a name here, create the household for them, which will update for the people records that exist, and we can see all of the information that Julius gave us in the form. Now, we could run this further. This demo kind of ends here, but you could have further automations where if you change the status from pre-prospect to prospect or client, additional kind of tasks run in a cascading workflow. But today, I just want to show you some of the power of automations and forms. If you're curious about taking this example further or any other use cases for forms, automations, or Airtable as a general CRM, feel free to reach out.